Hey everyone, we're going to talk about Florence, maybe in a somewhat different way than what you've been hearing otherwise. Florence, obviously a major hurricane. It's at 130 mile per hour winds. That makes it towards the lower end of a Category 4, which is a major hurricane. Category 3 is still a major hurricane as well. But I want to show you it. On our satellite view, you can see that very well-defined eye. It's still a long ways away from the coast, but it is continuing to move eastward. And look at that eye wall. This is the area, you hear about these winds. This is right in here is where you get those strongest winds. So you get out here, you could have 60, 70 mile per hour winds, but it's right along, especially the northeast edge of the hurricane as it moves to the northwest, that we get the strongest winds. That will likely come on shore sometime very late Thursday night or Friday, but there is some disagreement amongst the models. These are a variety of models. We call this the spaghetti models because you can see there's a multitude of lines. Some of these are based on climatology. Some of these are based on older model runs. But notice the overall agreement that they all take it towards the northern part of South Carolina, towards Myrtle Beach or right around Wilmington. Now that's fairly good news for places like Charleston, but it's terrible news for the Outer Banks because even though the Outer Banks won't take a direct hit, they're going to see that persistent northeast wind. So areas like Cape Fear, some of the rivers extend inland 20, 30 miles per hour. They're going to get the storm surge. It could be as high as 13 feet. A storm surge means how much will the ocean actually rise. So if you're 6 feet above sea level, and you get a 13-foot storm surge, it means you're 7 feet underwater. So that's the very dangerous part about being along the coast. But watch what our models do after this. You can see some of them kind of just shoot it off in different directions, but the vast majority of them follow basically what the National Hurricane Center is saying, and that's taking it into South Carolina. But this is not until Sunday afternoon or Sunday midday, and it puts it right about there. Some of the models keep it closer to shore, and as it gets close to shore, it's going to slow down. The problem with that is you're going to have several hours of very strong winds and incredibly heavy rains. Here's a look at our raincast for the entire system. Notice 18 inches in Wilmington. That is going to cause devastating flooding. 9.74 in Myrtle Beach. 4.2 in Charleston, and then as that moisture spreads inland, even places like Atlanta by early next week will get 3 to 4 inches of rain, and you can see the rain will then end as we head into early next week along the coast. But you're talking 10 to 20 inches, maybe locally or heavier amounts. That will be the story after the hurricane makes landfall. So yes, there will be flooding. Yes, there will be a big storm surge. It's not quite as strong as an Andrew or a Hugo, but this area hasn't seen one like this for possibly 4 or 5 decades. So it is a powerful storm. There's our total rainfall. You can see you get inland still 4, 5, 6 inches, enough to cause some flooding, but the biggest concern will be about within 70, 80 miles of the coastal areas, with the worst being in North Carolina as well as South Carolina. The good news with this track taking a turn like this, for those folks in Virginia, yes, there could be some locally heavy rains, but nothing compared to what they'll see farther south. In places like Raleigh that look like they were going to get really walloped, they're still going to get 3 to 4 inches of rain, but the worst will be to the south of them. So those are some of the areas that we're keeping an eye on. Now, I made this actually yesterday, but I want to share it with you. Can these systems reach our area? Well, a couple of things. Yes, they can, but very rarely do we get an Atlantic system bringing us any considerable moisture. Usually it's the systems that come out of the Gulf and then turn northward. That's what happened with Ike and Gustav. Look at this. In 2008, we had 2. Both happened in September. And when you combine these 2 rainfall amounts, they gave us 11 inches of precipitation. Sandy, I remember Sandy. The reason I remember Sandy so well, at least locally, is I was in Michigan City, right along the lakefront, and it was incredibly windy. Matter of fact, we had winds gusting to near 70 miles per hour out on the lake with Sandy. That's one of the systems that came in off the Atlantic and actually affected our weather. Didn't give us hardly any rain, but it produced some monster waves and some very strong winds. So once in a while these systems reach us. That will not be the case with Florence, but what's interesting about Florence is that it will bring us a lot of nothing. Okay, now when I say nothing, it causes all the weather systems to our west to kind of back up. And when you get these massive hurricanes like this, the air around the hurricane, say several hundred miles out, is sinking because of all that air rising in the middle of the hurricane. So we get a pleasant day like this. Temperatures midday, mid-70s, lots of sunshine. And that's going to be our weather for the next several days, where we get into the 80s during the day, into the 50s at night, lots of sunshine, maybe a little fog in the morning, but just not a lot of active weather around here for the next 5 or 6 days. So that's how Florence will affect our weather, not by bringing us rain, but helping, giving us some pretty nice conditions. So we'll watch Florence. We're actually going to have, I'm going to be on the 4 and 5 with some local stories as far as ambulance companies sending several of their first responders down there. And also, if I can, another company that is going to deal with the infrastructure problems for the Carolinas as the system comes on shore. So hope you can stay with us, and we'll certainly keep you up to date, both digital and on the air on ABC7.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our ABC7 Chicago YouTube channel.